Have you ever lost a loved one? This presentation is on grief therapy and grief counseling. Grief counseling involves helping people move through uncomplicated or normal grief to health and resolution. Grief therapy involves the use of clinical tools for traumatic or complicated grief reactions. There are multiple sources on grief. I chose these few to present a small glimpse into grief therapy and grief counseling. Grief, according to Webster's dictionary, is deep sadness caused especially by someone's death, a cause of deep sadness, a trouble or annoyance. A peer-review article published in the Journal of Mental Health Counseling in 2012, titled Pet Loss and Disenfranchised Grief, Implications for Mental Health Counseling Practice. As the title implies, it spoke about the grief of an individual that may suffer from a pet death. The definition of disenfranchised grief, according to Expressive Grief Counseling and Coaching's website, is disenfranchised grief is when your heart is grieving, you can't talk about or share your pain with others because it is considered unacceptable to others. It's when you're sad and miserable and the world doesn't think you should be, either because you're not entitled or because it isn't worth it. Some examples of disenfranchised grief could include a miscarriage, a friendship not known to the family, caregivers such as health professionals when a patient dies, or when your loss isn't a person, such as pet loss, a failed marriage, financial loss or business loss. It has been widely accepted within the mental health profession that grief has 5 stages. Psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was the first to document this theory. The 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. In denial, you refuse to accept the facts, or you ignore the facts. The next stage is anger, which is when you're upset with yourself or upset with others, feeling frustrated. Bargaining is when we negotiate with God or a higher power, or make deals with ourselves. Depression is when we get sadness and regret, and we have fear and anxiety and uncertainty. Acceptance is struggling to resist the change, and emotional detachment. All people grieve differently. Some people will wear their emotions on their sleeves and be outwardly emotional. Others will experience their grief more internally and may not cry. You should try not to judge how a person experiences their grief, as each person will experience it differently, and sometimes several stages at the same time. Some local resources for grief in the Central Maine area are Hospice Volunteers of Somerset County, located at 41 Main Street, Skowhegan, Maine. The phone number is 207-474-7775. Hospice Volunteers of Waterville on 304 Main Street in Waterville, Maine. Telephone number is 207-873-3615. There is also a wonderful grief support centers that can be found through the 211 or the Maine.gov website. There's a PDF file with all the grief support centers located throughout the state of Maine by county.
Created using Powtoon.